Welcome to SF News' Fintech Spotlight. Now today we're going to be finding out how merchants can change their payment experience and also look at payments as a whole in this ever-changing industry. And joining me here today is Maurice Jongmans, the CEO of online payments platform, or OPP. Maurice, how are you? Okay?
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely
Thank you.
Brilliant. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show because I'm really excited to get your insights. Because I believe OPP are perfectly placed to give us a little bit of an insider scoop. So could you please tell our viewers a bit more about yourself and OPP?
Well, OPP is an online payment platform based from the Netherlands, city of Delft, with offices as well in London and Berlin. And we are a payment service provider catering to the needs of the users on platforms and marketplaces specific. So, and that could happen in the consumer-to-consumer space, like large marketplaces like Kleinanzeigen in Germany or Marktplaats in the Netherlands or Gumtree in the UK, but also business-to-business platforms that can be from energy trading to hotels to cars.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, yeah, when you see the kind of marketplaces around the internet increasing in volume and people being really used to them, it's such a perfect place to be in. And I'm really intrigued as an organization that has offices in London, Berlin, Amsterdam, your perspective for European merchants and what are some of the kind of challenges that European merchants might encounter, more so than maybe other regions?
Well, in general, you see that payment experience gets more and more important for the end user. But there more hurdles are coming into the payment experience due to, for example, the obligation for strong customer authentication.
Yeah.
So on certain levels you get more control, more checks, and that does not always help the payment experience for the user.
It doesn't help the friction level.
Exactly. So trying to get safe payment methods but little impact on the user is really important, and that's also, I think, in some ways changing the way people like to pay. The easiness of payments can make it happen much quicker. If you've seen the growth of like Apple Pay in a point of sale environment, I'm only carrying my watch nowadays, and that should do the job.
Perfect.
And if it's not working, like half of Germany still, then I'm
well, it's
getting an issue there.
It's an issue, and it can lead to, I guess, actual abandonment, for instance. So that's regulation and increasing friction is obviously a challenge. But within Europe, there's obviously quite a lot of opportunity to be had as well, right? I mean, especially now that we've had customer demands increase, and we talked about the abandonment already. But what are the opportunities?
I think the whole goal of the PSD2 legislation was also to create more possibilities for innovation, and we haven't seen that happening yet.
Right. Okay.
And that's because in the end the goal is right. You want to make a more open finance, open payments solution, but it takes time, and so you need APIs from banks. Well, that takes time to develop, then they need time to optimize, and people will not start using them before they are actually well performing. But as long as people don't use them, there's not enough attention going to it, and then the whole market is still, you have over 5,000 banks, so before you have a proper accessibility for a payment solution, you need a lot of banks as well. So that's taking time, and I might have hoped that it would be quicker.
I think we all did. Element, yeah.
But we're getting there, and at the same time we now see a lot of banks also looking into more other payment schemes. So Ideal is updating their scheme. You see SPAA as a scheme coming up. European Payment Initiatives is working on new solutions, and that's more like premium solution compared to the basically free API access that they should provide within PSD2. And I think that's what might help, because when you go to the premium API, it also the legislation can be different, or the scheme rules can fit on that, and you might solve a couple of these more difficult challenges you have with normal APIs.
Now, with that in mind then, how has your partnership with PPRO, how is it going to enable these merchants, these banks, these organizations actually take advantage of the legislation, the regulations that have come out? Because as you said, we haven't yet got to that point, but how can this partnership enable that?
Well, for us, PPRO is our partner in local payment methods, and as I already demonstrated, there is a lot of different schemes happening, and there are almost all of them are in the end local. It might be a couple of countries, but in the end, there's not going to be one single payment solution. I don't know, maybe something with the digital euros somewhere in a
maybe down the line, yeah.
But before that, there will be local schemes, local solutions, and in the end, if local heroes is how people in a country want to pay, then we want to adapt to that and make sure that we can provide that local payment method in this region. And working with PPRO allows us to have one single contact and one single solution that we can leverage.
That's absolutely perfect, and I always like at FF News to kind of get some use cases, and have you got a specific use case to mind when you can think of you were able to offer up a local payment method through PPRO?
I think we have always some extra difficulties, especially if you run marketplaces that cater between consumers, that means consumer seller, consumer buyer. You need to take care of a lot of other challenges because, for example, I always give the example that if you are a seller on a marketplace, you sell your second-hand shoes, you sell them for €50, someone pays for it and you need to ship it and then you get your money. That's a perfect use case. But what if this was paid with a credit card and the receiver is filing a chargeback request?
Oh, right, okay. I can already see the complexity building here.
Yeah, because then should I as a payment service provider go to this consumer and say, well, you sold your shoes, but there was a chargeback request, so you don't get your €50 for the shoes. That doesn't work for, you cannot. Businesses can understand the risk of payments, and if you do a lot of transactions, you understand the risk of a chargeback. But for consumers, that doesn't work. So you need to either solve the whole chargeback problem, or you need to make sure you work with solutions that won't have this problem in the first time. And that's what we work also with PPRO together to see which actual local payment methods would support the specific use case that we have. So in the Netherlands, ideal is of course a secure payment. There's no chargeback risk on that. But even if there's a chargeback risk on like small chargeback risks on so-forth supervising in Germany, you need to see how can we minimize that risk and find solutions to still be able to pay out each individual seller that actually just delivered what he was supposed to do.
So would you say that ideal use case was a success story of your partnership with PPRO?
Yeah, well, Ideal has been a success story in the Netherlands for the last 20 years.
Do you have any success stories of examples of European merchants that have leveraged your capabilities along with PPRO's partnership to meet these demands?
What we did in Germany, for example, with local payment method, also later some piloting with Klarna as a buy now, pay later solution, also very difficult in a consumer-to-consumer environment again, but be able to pilot with that and connect. Due to the partnership with PPRO, we can sometimes very quickly connect to a local payment method, pilot with it, and decide whether or not it is a viable solution.
Perfect. That actually leads me right onto my next question, and that's how quickly these customer demands are changing. How can organizations, what's your advice really, for them to be able to keep up and steer the course and see where they need to go next?
Yeah, well, that's making sure my team is always aware of all the changes that are happening, all the possibilities that comes around, and that means also meeting with the team of PPRO, talking to your innovation managers, your scheme managers, to tell us what's happening in the world that we might not directly be aware of, or in local areas where we are not based on a daily basis, but still we need to provide a good solution for our local partners there.
It's amazing how, even though the world has gotten bigger and global, it's actually shrunk, and you have to really see that fragmentation and work around that.
Yeah, and as I said, these new schemes coming up, new payment methods, new solutions sometimes, updated APIs, they create new opportunities in the payment flow. But since it's still fragmented over Europe, you need to be aware of each individual area and check what happened here for the last year. Is there a new payment method coming up that we should look into, that we should try out? What works, what doesn't work?
I think it's fascinating, honestly, having to, seeing the various different cultures within Europe alone, just how diverse it is, how fragmented it is, and that seems like an ever-evolving change. Now, if we could take all those pillars together, and I'd love to get your insights as where you think the payments industry is going in the future, and obviously we've seen fragmentation in Europe, but where do you see it evolving, and how's your partnership with PPRO going to enable you to be right at the heart of that change?
I think the payments I think we will see both flows going to happen. So we will see a more fragmented, still new payment method solutions coming up for the next couple of years, but we might also see some consolidation, some more European solutions, and maybe somewhere in the far future something that looks like digital euro.
CBDC, yeah.
They really want that in Europe. They haven't convinced me yet.
Sure.
So they will not even be coming close to convincing my mother, let's say it that
exactly.
way. So they need to solve an issue there.
Yeah.
And as I said, the local heroes will still be around, because look at the Ideal scheme in the Netherlands. It has been very popular in the Netherlands, but they never managed to get it onto an international scale. And that was usually because the business case on an international scale was too difficult. Because if you are catering to Belgian people, you connect bank contact as a solution. That's much less work than trying to make an international scheme. So both will happen, and that will help people, evolve in the payment experience. It will become less frictionless at some point. Some pain points we're probably not going to solve anyway, because safety and security will be very important as well.
Yeah, it's finding that balance, isn't it, between the friction. I think that's going to be such a big turning point for the success of an LPM in the future. But Maurice, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure getting your insights. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks.